Hilchos Brachos Perek Asiri. Laws of Blessings, chapter 10. Today is a very special day. Today is 100 days since we started learning Rambam. Today is the 100th chapter, and there's 1,017. So we're just about 10% of the way through. It's a huge milestone that Baruch Hashem we've been able to be committed for so long, every single day learning a chapter of Rambam. And Hashem should help us that we should continue learning, finishing Sfarim, and ultimately finish all 14 books of the Rambam Be'ezrat Hashem.
What are you going to do when you're going to be in Israel?
So,
You're going to do it via Zoom?
first of all, actually tomorrow I'm also not going to be here. My father's going to give a class.
Huh?
Tomorrow I'm also not going to be here. Tomorrow and the next day. So my father's going to give the shiur. When I'm going to be in Israel, I have two options. Either, because I'm going to pre-record the videos anyways for online. So either you can play a video straight out of here, or my father can give the class, or someone else. So whatever you guys prefer. If you prefer live, have somebody live. If you prefer to just watch, just watch. Okay? We'll talk about it as we get closer. Today, the chapter is about brachot on everything else besides for food and pleasure. Till now, we talked about blessings on food, before and after, and blessings on smell. That was yesterday. Today, the Rambam is going to discuss all other brachot besides for birkat ha-mitzvot. Brachos on mitzvahs are going to be tomorrow. But today, it's what we call brachot sheva. The blessings of things. Blessings on nature, blessings on good things happening to you in your life. So let's see how the Rambam describes it. Here we go. Halacha Aleph. Brachot acherot udvarim acherim harbe. Other blessings and many other things. She'en bahem pticha v'lo chatima. They don't have a beginning or an end, like there's no Baruch Atah Hashem, that kind of a thing. They're just statements. Tiknu chachamim derech shevach v'hodaya lakadosh baruch hu. The sages enacted in a way of expressing praise or thanks to Hashem, k'mo berchot hatfilah shekvar ktavnu, like the blessings of davening, which we already described earlier in the laws of tefillah, and a bunch of other things. Ve'elu hein, and they are the following: haboneh bayit chadash v'hakoneh kelim chadashim. A person who builds a new house or buys new articles. New articles means very important articles, like a car. Is a good example. You buy a new car. Ben yeshlo kayotzei bahem. Ben enlo. Whether he already has something like it. He already has a home, he's buying himself a new home. Or he never had a home, and he's buying his first home. Mevarech, you make the blessing, Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, she'echiyanu v'kiyimanu v'higiyanu lazman hazeh. You thank Hashem for giving you life, for giving you sustenance, for allowing you to reach this point of being able to afford a wonderful house or a wonderful car. By the way, it doesn't have to be totally new. It could be a used car. If it's new for you, that's the point. It's new for you. So that's what makes she'echiyanu. Halacha bet. Somebody sees his friend after a break of 30 days. You haven't seen each other for a month. It's an occasion to make she'echiyanu. If you haven't seen your friend in a year, 12 months, you make a blessing. Thank you, Hashem, for bringing life back to the dead. Because in Talmud it says that it takes 12 months for a dead person to be forgotten. So in the same way, if you haven't seen a live person for 12 months, you say mechaya metim.
People still doing it?
So no. The poel lo nohagin ken, and the commentaries say it's tzarich iyun, like it's wonderful, like it's wondrous why. People stop making these blessings, but we don't really know why. The question is also, especially today, what happens if you get a letter from him during that time, or if you see a picture of him? Is it considered still seeing, or an email? Exactly. No, it's not a joke. The Mishneh Torah says that if you got a letter or a text, you can't make the blessing. The Alter Rebbe says no. Even if you got a text or an email, you could make the blessing because there's nothing like seeing somebody face to face. It's even more special. But the question is with pictures today. It's very, especially with videos. You can get a video of somebody living in Israel. Let's say you haven't seen them for a year, but you get videos all the time. So anyway, bottom line is today we don't do these blessings. When you see a fruit that comes around only once a year, it's not a perennial fruit, it only comes around in a special season each year. When you see it, the first time you see it, you make she'echiyanu. Today, Shulchan Aruch writes, we don't make a blessing when we see it, we make a blessing when we eat it. If you eat a new fruit, then you make she'echiyanu.
What happens if you haven't seen an enemy for 12 months?
The Rambam says chavero, it says your friend. So maybe that means it just doesn't mean your enemies. Halacha Gimel. Shamash Shmua Tova. If you hear good news, mevarech Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam hatov v'hametiv. something which personally affects you. You make the blessing, thank you Hashem, that you are good and you do good. We're going to see later that this is only in a case where the good affects you and other people. If it just affects you, you make shechianu instead of atov hamitiv. Shamash shmua ra'ah. If you hear bad news, mivarech baruch dayana emet. You make a blessing. Blessed is the true judge. For example, someone passes away, close relative. That's the blessing we make. Baruch dayana emet. V'chayav adam levarech al hara'ah betuv nefesh. A person is obligated to make a blessing on bad things with the same gladness of the soul. Kederech shemivarech al hatovah besimcha. The same way you make the blessing on goodness with joy. Shene'emar, as it says, ve'ahavta et Hashem elokecha v'gomer uvechol meodecha. You should love Hashem with all your soul, with all your heart. Uvechol meodecha. What does it mean, bechol meodecha? Literally, it means with all your strength. Love Hashem very much. What does Torah mean? Ubichlal ahava ha'yetera shenitztavinu ba. Included in this very much, this strong love that we're commanded is sha'afilu be'ed sheyitzar lo yodev yishabach b'simcha. That even in a time where life is bothering you, circumstances are hurting you, you still thank Hashem and you still praise Him with joy. This is a quote from the Mishnah at the end of Masechet Brachot. That's how it says it. Chayav adam levarech al hara'ah kishem shu mevarech al hatovah shene'emar ve'ahavta Hashem elokecha b'chol levavcha b'chol nafshecha b'chol me'odecha. Says the Mishnah. What does it mean b'chol me'odecha? B'chol midah u'midah shehu moded lecha. Whatever type of measure Hashem deals, whatever deck of cards you're dealt, have a modelo b'ma'od ma'od. You should thank Hashem very much. That's because me'odecha means very. You're supposed to love Hashem very much. Very much means even when it's tough. Mamoncha. Yeah, the Mishnah also brings down that me'odecha means your money. But here the Rambam is referring it to like your spirit, your attitude. Halacha dalet. Higiya ilav tova o sheshama shmua tova. A person hears good news, or he gets actually something good. Afal pisha hadvarim marin shetova zo tigrom lo ra'ah. Even though it looks like this good is going to turn into something bad. Now, the Rambam says in times of old, people used to get, you found a lost object, the government would come after you. They heard you have more money, you get harassed. So in the moment it's a good thing, but then it's going to turn into a bad thing. Still, mevarech hatov v'hametiv. In this moment you make a blessing that Hashem is good and He does good. V'chenim nag'a ilav ra'ah, o shama shmua ra'ah. Something bad happened to you, or you heard bad news. Afal pisha advarim marim shera'ah zo goremet lo tova. Even though it looks like this bad thing's going to cause you good. You know, Itzik runs a construction company. 1994 earthquake, bad news, right? But he knows that his retrofitting company is about to make a lot of big bucks, because now people have to go retrofit their homes. So what is it? So in the moment you have to make bad. You have to make a blessing on the bad. Mevarech da'an ha'emet. You make a blessing. Hashem is the true judge. She'en mevarchin al ha'atid liot el al ma she'ira ata. You don't make a blessing for what's coming. You make blessings only for what happened now. You know the joke of the three Jews that were getting together? One guy says, because they're all very rich, how'd you make your money? So one guy says, well, I had a big fire in my house, and I collected fire insurance, and I'm rich. Other guy says, I had a big flood in my house, and I collected my water insurance, and I am getting rich. Third guy says, we had a massive earthquake, and I also got insurance, and I got a lot of money. So the two guys, turn to each other and say, how do you start an earthquake? So that's the thing. Okay. Oh, that's my wallet. The guy found the wallet on the floor. It's good news. It could be good, but it could be bad. Halacha he, yarduk shamim rabim. If too much rain came down into your field, a ton of rain. Im yesh lo sadeh. If you have a field, so it's going to help you because you like a lot of rain. Mevarech she'echianu. That's good news. You make she'echianu. V'im hayta shelo v'shel achirim. If the field belonged to you and others, mevarech hatov v'hametiv. Then you make the blessing that Hashem is good and He does good. Like I said before, hatov v'hametiv. You make for shared good. Shechianu is for individual good. If you have no field, so it's just Hashem brought rain to the world, and you know it's good for other people, mivarech, you make the following blessing. Modim anachnu lach Hashem Elokeinu. We thank you, Hashem, al kol tipa v'tipa she'oradet alanu, for every drop that you brought down. And then he continues on the screen where you can see v'iluf finu maleh, this whole section from the Nishmat Kol Chai. If our mouth was full of shira kayam, sheninin kamongalav, a whole bunch of lines, v'chulei ad, all the way until hem yodu vivarchu vishabchu vivarchu et shimcha malkeinu. That whole section about we thank Hashem for all of our body parts. They're going to thank, they're going to praise, they're going to bless your name, our King. And then you end off Baruch Atah Hashem Kel Rav Ha'odaot V'Tishbachot. You are the God of many thanks and praises. Today, we don't make this blessing anymore, but definitely used to be that you made this long nusach, this long liturgy that you would say if you didn't have a field and rain came down to the world. Halacha vav, me'ematay mevarchin al hagshamim. When is the appropriate time to make a blessing on rain? How much rain has to come down to deserve a blessing? Mishayirbeh hamayim al haaretz, till there's so much water on the ground, v'ya'alu avabuot min hamatar al pnei hamayim, such that droplets from the rain reach the water, v'yelchu ha'avabuot ze likrat ze, and the bubbles go towards each other. You can see kind of over here, when it's raining very hard, it hits the ground so hard that the drops come up. Maybe here it's a better zoom up picture. Anyway, little droplet. Okay? Understand? The point is that there's so much rain that the water is bouncing back up to itself. Halacha zayin, amru lo met avivi rashahu. They come to you and they tell you, listen, your father just died, but he also left you $100 million. Now what? It's a good thing or a bad thing? Im yashimo achin. So if he has brothers, he has to share the money. Mivarech batchila dayan ha'emet, v'achar kach hatov ha'metiv. First you have to make a blessing, dayan ha'emet, father passed away. Then you also make a blessing, hatov ha'metiv, for shared good. You and your brothers are getting a lot of money. So you thank Hashem for that. V'im eni mo'achim, if you're the only son, there's no brothers, mivarech she'echiyanu, you make a blessing she'echiyanu for the money that you're getting. Katzro shel davar, the summary of the matter is as follows. Kol dvar tova shehilo v'la'achirim, any good thing which is for you and for others, mivarech hatov ha'metiv. You make thanking Hashem that He is good and He does good. V'tova shehilo levado, but if it's a good just for you, mivarech she'echiyanu, then you make she'echiyanu. Halacha chet, very familiar halacha, arba'at tzrichin lehodot. There are 4 people who have to say thanks to Hashem. Cholesha nitrape, a sick person who became healthy. V'chavush sheyatza mibet ha'asurim, a prisoner who went out of jail. V'yordei hayam keshe'alu, those that go to sea when they come up from the journey. V'holchei drachim keshe'yagiu liyishuv, and travelers when they come back to settled area. You see this verse here? We say it every day in Shemona Esrei. V'chol hachayim yodu chasela, all those that are alive will thank you. Look at the word chayim. Chet yud yud mem stands for chole, yisurim, yam and midbar. A sick person, yisurim is prisoner, yam is in the sea, and midbar is in the desert. You go through any of these 4 situations, when you come out, you have to thank Hashem. By the way, we see it in Tehillim. Every Friday afternoon, before Mincha, we say Tehillim Perek Kuf Zayin, and we describe the 4 people. When it says, Ta'uba midbar bi shimon darech, people go in a desert, and then they cry out to Hashem, and Hashem saves them. What does it say? Yodu la Hashem chazdo, v'niflotav livnei adam. Many people, before they say Hagomel, they say this verse. Sfaradim especially. Right, then it goes on. Yoshvei choshech v'tzal mabet, people that are in jail. Also, when they come out, Yodu la Hashem chazdo. Same thing with the other guys. People get sick because of their sins. Yodu la Hashem chazdo. When they come out. And finally, the people that go to the ocean, Yodei hayam ba'aniyot, Hashem makes big storms, They cry out to Hashem, Yodu la Hashem chazdo, v'niflotav livnei adam. Same thing, they thank Hashem. So, you have to make a special blessing when you go through these crises and you come out. Utzrichin lehodot bifnei asara u'shnayim me'em chachamim. You must thank Hashem in front of 10 people with a minyan. 2 of them have to be sages. Shene'emar, because the next verse in Tehillim, it says over there, V'romemuhu b'kal am uv'moshav zkenim yahalaluhu. You should elevate God in a community, that's 10 Jews, and there should be seated over there some zekenim, some elders, which are chachamim. So you have to have a minyan. That's why today, when we say Hagomel, we typically say it by the Torah reading, because there's always going to be 10 Jews there, and hopefully 2 sages. And you say a blessing. V'ketzad modeh v'ketzad mevarech. What's the way to make the blessing? How do you show thanks? Omed beinehen. You stand amongst the 10 Jews. Umevarech, and you make the blessing. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam. Blessed are you, Hashem, the Lord King of the universe. Hagomel l'chayavim tovot, who does good to those that are guilty. You didn't deserve it necessarily. Hashem does good to those who are chayavim. And shagmalani kol tov, He gave me lots of good. Or others say shagmalani tov. V'chol hashom'in omrim, everybody listening who says shagmalcha tov, Hashem who did you good this case, hu yigmalcha sela, He should do you good in all cases. And now, there's a lot of debate about the specifics of this thing. Choleh, for example, there's 2 opinions in Shulchan Aruch. One says, any type of sickness, you come out of it, you got a cold, you came out, you make hagomel. Others say, no, only if you're so sick that you would desecrate Shabbat for it. That's when you have to make a hagomel. So l'maaseh, we say, we go in the middle. If you were in bed for 3 days, then you make hagomel. That's for sickness.
Also for the midbar, you go to Palm Springs.
So for desert, exactly. What counts as a desert? So the Rambam says it's going on a road where you're away from the settlement. Ksheyagiu la'yishuv, when you return to the settlement, so only if you went out of town, that's when you have to go make hagomel. There's a lot of debate today. What happens if you take a plane? When you're in a plane, you go overseas, you go over deserts. So today, the accepted practice is only if you go overseas, then you make hagomel when you come, if you're just flying domestic in the United States. Many people don't make hagomel. Some people do. Point is that consult your rabbi, to know exactly which hagomel you have to make in which case. But the general 4 are, like we saw before, v'chol ha'chaim yodu chasela, chole yisurim yam and midbar. Sick person, prison, sea, and desert. Okay, let's go on to other things. Halacha tet. Haro'eh makom shenasu nisim liYisrael. You see a place which a great miracle happened to the Jewish people. Kigon Yamsuf from Abrot HaYarden, like the Yamsuf, or the Yarden where the Jews crossed. Omer, you say, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, she'asa nisim la'avoteinu b'makom hazeh. That Hashem did a miracle for our fathers in this place. V'chein kol makom shenasu bo nisim la'rabim. The same applies to any place where miracles were done for the public. But if there's a place where only an individual had a miracle, that person and his child and grandchild, mivarech, every time they pass that place, they have to make the following blessing: Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, she'asa li nes b'makom hazeh, or she'asa nes la'avotai b'makom hazeh. Hashem did a miracle for me in this place, or to my father. I was once in a car in New York with a friend of mine. We're driving in between Rebbe's Ohel and Crown Heights. We came to a certain corner. He stops the car. He makes a blessing. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, she'asa li nes b'makom hazeh. What happened? Because a year ago he had a massive car crash right there. He almost died. So for him, that's literally his place where he had a nes. Haro'eh govarayot. What if you see the lion's den, the kivshan ha'esh she'ushlach bo Hananya, Mishael, va'Azariah, or the fiery furnace, where Hananya, Mishael, va'Azariah were thrown in. So here, it's a miracle done only for an individual, not for the public. But because there was such a big Kiddush Hashem, when Daniel was thrown into the lion's den and these 3 people went into the furnace of fire, they weren't burned up, mivarech, you should make a special blessing. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, she'asa nes latzadikim, b'makom hazeh. That Hashem did a nes for tzadikim in this place. Haro'eh makom she'ovdin bo avodat kochavim u'mazalot. If you go by a place where they're serving idols, mivarech, you make a blessing. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, she'natan erech apayim lo'ovrei ritzono. Hashem has patience with those who transgress His will. You should make a blessing, because it's unfortunate. Makom shene'ekra mimeno avodah zara, kochavim mazalot. A place where there used to be idols, and now the idols were uprooted. In be'eretz Yisraelu, if you're in Israel where there's a mitzvah to uproot idols, mivarech she'akar avodat kochavim mazalot me'artzenu. Thank you, Hashem, for uprooting the service of idols from our land. V'im b'chutz la'aretz, so if it's outside the land in the diaspora, mivarech she'akar avodat kochavim mazalot mimakom hazeh. Thank you, Hashem, for uprooting the idol worship from this place. V'omer bishtehen. In both cases, you add the following wish: Kishem she'akarta mimakom zeh, kach ta'akor mikol mikomot, v'tashiv levavdehem le'avdecha. The same way you uprooted it from this place, uprooted it from all places, and may you return the hearts of those who serve them to serve you, to serve Hashem. Halacha yut. Haro'eh batei Yisrael b'yishuvan. If you see houses of Jews in a proper settled place, some say it refers to a nice neighborhood of Jews. The Bet Yosef says it refers to seeing Jews who own big mansions. You go to Beverly Hills, you see a bunch of Jews that own a lot of nice big houses. Mivarech, you make a special bracha. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, matziv gvul almana. Thank you, Hashem, for well-founding the border of the widow. We're called a widow. We just had Tisha B'Av in Megillat Eicha. We say Haytaka almana. Yerushalayim was like a widow, and now you see Jews can afford nice houses, so you thank Hashem for that. Today, it says that we only make these blessings on Batei Knesset. If you see a group of nice shuls together, then you should make, but on regular houses, you don't make this blessing. B'churbanan, if unfortunately you see a settlement of Jews that's destroyed, Omer Baruch Dayan HaEmet, you say, blessed is the true judge. It's a churban, what you're seeing. Haro'eh kivrei Yisrael, if you see kivrei, graves of Jews, a Jewish cemetery, mivarech, you make a special blessing. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam. Asher yatzar etchem badin. He created you with justice. V'dan etchem badin. He judged you in justice. V'chilkel etchem badin. He sustained you in justice. V'hemit etchem badin. He killed you in justice. V'hu atid lehakim etchem badin l'chayei haolam haba. And He is going to resurrect you in justice to the life of the world to come. Baruch atah Hashem mechayei hametim. Blessed are you, God, who gives life to the dead. Today we do this every time we go to a Jewish cemetery, as long as it's 30 days have passed. If it's within 30 days, you don't make another blessing. Halacha Yud Aleph, Haro'eh, Shesh Me'ot Elef Adam Ke'echad. If you see 600,000 Jews, people, as one. Im Akumhem, if it's Gentiles, you go to a massive sports game, the World Cup, there's Shesh Me'ot Elef Goyim. Omer, you should say, Bosha Imchem Me'od, Chafra Yoladetechem. Your mother shall be greatly ashamed. The one that gave birth to you is going to be very embarrassed. Hinei Achrit Goyim. Midbar Tziyah va'arava, the future of the non-Jewish nations is going to be a desolate desert and plain. And in that way, you kind of let Hashem know that He should bring about the ultimate Geulah when the Jews will have their ultimate rulership. If it's Jews and they're in Israel, you went to Rabbi Yosef Lipskier, and there was, I think, close to 1 million Jews. Omer, you make a blessing. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, chacham harazim. Blessed are you, God, the wise one who knows the secrets. Because every single person in Deotein Shavot, nobody thinks the same. And there's Shesh Meot Elef, it's like the quintessential Jewish number. So you have the ultimate amount of different mindsets. So you make the blessing, chacham harazim. Haro'eh mechachmei omot ha'olam. You see a genius from the nations. Yeah, Thomas Edison, it's a guy. A non-Jewish genius. Omer, you say, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, shenatan mechachmato levasar v'adam. Thank you, Hashem, for giving from your wisdom to a man of flesh and blood. Chachmei Yisrael. If you see a Jewish genius, Albert Einstein, who knows? Mevarech, you make a blessing, shenatan mechachmato li'reiav. Hashem gave from His wisdom to those who fear Him. Malchei Yisrael, if you see a Jewish king, Omer, you say, shenatan mikvodo mikvurato li'reiav. Hashem gave part of His honor and part of His strength to those who fear Him. Malchei umot ha'olam, you see a non-Jewish king. In England, you go to the King of England. Mevarech, you make a blessing. Shenatan mikvado lebasar v'adam. Thank you, Hashem, for giving from your honor to a man of flesh and blood. Halacha yud bet haro'eh takushi. A person who sees a Negro. Bet hameshunin b'tzurat pneihen o be'evreihem. Or somebody who has a deformity in the way his face looks or his limbs. Included in this is a midget or an extra tall person, etc. Mevarech, you make a blessing. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam mishaneh et habriot. Blessed are you, Hashem, who altered His creatures. The Midrash says that originally all humans were of regular skin color. Only Cham, because of the thing that he did, transformed into a darker color skin. So in that way, it's altering Hashem's creations. Now, today, we don't make this blessing anymore because it's so common. It's common to see all people of all skin colors, so we don't do that. But if you see a dwarf or a giant, you still make the blessing.
So it's politically incorrect.
We won't get into that. Haro'eh suma o kitea. If you see a blind person or an amputee, he's missing a leg, he's missing an arm. Umokei shchin, person who has lots of blisters or boils. Ubohakanin, or somebody who has vitiligo, like the white spots, pigmentation on their hands or on their skin. V'chayotzei bahen. Mevarech, you make a blessing. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam dayan ha'emet. Hashem is the true judge. He brings these afflictions on people we don't know why, and they have to suffer. V'im noldu kein mim'ei iman. If they were born that way, from their birth, mevarech, you make a blessing. Mishaneh et habriot, because Hashem created them that way. Hashem altered His creation. Haro'eh tapil. If you see an elephant, v'etakof, or a monkey, v'etakipof, or an owl, Omer, you say, Baruch Mishaneh et habriot, Hashem altered His creatures. Now again, today it's common practice. We see elephants all the time. It's not unusual. So therefore we don't make a blessing. But if you do see an unusual animal, unusual for you, the modern day poskim will say you make this blessing. Halacha yud gimel haro'eh briot na'ot u'metukanot biyoter. You see beautiful, wonderful creatures, very, very beautiful in form. V'ilanot tovot, or good trees, nice trees. Mevarech, you make a blessing. Shekachal lo ba'olamo. Thank you, Hashem, that this is how your world looks like. The Talmud says, different sages, they would see a beautiful man or a beautiful woman, they would make a blessing like this. Today, Shulchan Aruch says we don't make this blessing because it's hard to define exactly, beauty's in the eyes of the beholder, who decides what beautiful is. So,
It wasn't so back then.
I guess back then the Chacham knew what's beautiful.
Plus
But we don't
you're
know.
supposed to look at women.
That's another discussion. Beautiful men, okay?
Oy vavoy.
Whatever I say, I get cut. Hayotzei lasadot al haginot b'mei Nisan. A person who goes out to the fields or to the gardens in the days of the month of Nisan. V'ra'ah ilanot porchot v'nitzanim olim. And you see trees are budding and flowers are blooming. We do this even today. Mevarech, we make a special blessing called Birkat HaIlanot. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, shelo chisar ba'olamo klum. Hashem is not lacking anything in His world. Uvarabo briot tovot v'ilanot tovot v'naot. And He created beautiful creatures and wonderful trees, beautiful trees. Kedei lehanot bahen b'nei adam, to grant pleasure, to grant enjoyment to people. Halacha yudalad haruchot shenashvu b'zaf. When winds come very strongly, we call this a hurricane or a tornado. Ba'al abrakim ba'al hara'amim, or on lightning or on thunder. Ba'al kol ha'havara shetishama ba'aretz kemo rechaim gdolim. And on massive echoes that sound on earth like big millstones grinding against each other. Some say it means an earthquake. Some say it just means when you hear the ground rumbling under you. V'al ha'ur sheba'avir, and on fire in the air. This is Commentaries basically say it refers to shooting stars or meteors, exactly. Sheyera'u ki'iluhem kochavim noflim v'ratzim mimakom lamakom, where it looks like you have stars that are flying and running from place to place, comets, or kumo kochavim sheyesh lahem zanav, or stars that seem to have a tail, like a shooting star. Al kol echad me'elu mevarech, on each of these you make a blessing, Baruch shekocho gvurato malei olam. Blessed is Hashem that His strength and His might fills the world. V'im ratzah, if you want, mevarech, simply oseh bereshit, that Hashem makes the wonders of the world. Today, if you see lightning and right away you hear thunder, you make both blessings. Oseh ma'aseh bereshit and shekocho gvurato malei olam. Halakha tetvav. Al heharim v'al hagvaot. If you see beautiful mountains, beautiful hills. Al hayamim v'al midbarot v'al hanharot, or seas, or deserts, or rivers. Im ra'a achat me'en mishloshim yom l'shloshim yom. If there's been a break from last time to this time that you saw, 30 days, mivarech oseh bereshit. You make a blessing. Thank you, Hashem, for making this wonderful creation. Haro'et hayam hagadol. If a person sees the Yam HaGadol, typically it means the Mediterranean, but over here the commentaries say it means any massive ocean. Mishloshim yom oyoter, with a break, interval of 30 days or more. Mevarech, you make a special blessing. Baruch atah Hashem, Elokeinu melech haolam, she'asa et Yam HaGadol. Thank you, Hashem, for making the great sea. Halakha tet zayin haro'eh keshet be'anan. You see a rainbow in the clouds. Mevarech, you make a special blessing for rainbows. Baruch atah Hashem, Elokeinu melech haolam. Blessed are you, God. Zocher abrit. He remembers his covenant, v'ne'eman bivrito, and he stays trustworthy to his covenant. V'kayam b'ma'amaro, and he keeps his word. Because the rainbow is a sign that Hashem wanted to destroy the world, and He's not going to. So when we see a rainbow, it's Hashem keeping His promise. When a person sees the new moon, mivarech, you make a blessing. We call this kiddush levana. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, asher b'ma'amaro barash chakim. Hashem created the heavens by His word. Uveruach piv kol tzvam, and by the air of His mouth, He created all the hosts of the heavens, all the planets, all the stars. Chok uzman natan lahem. He gave them a law. He gave them a time. Shelo yeshanu et tafkidam. They never changed their job. Sasimus mechim la'asot etzon konehem. They're joyful. They're very glad to do the will of their Creator. Po'alei emet u'po'ulatam tzedek. They're workers of truth and they do justice. Today we say po'el emet. It's talking about Hashem. Hashem does true. But in the Rambam's version, it's a description of the actual sun and moon. They work for Hashem faithfully. V'lalavana amar, and Hashem said about the moon, shetitchadesh ateret tiferet, that it should become new every month as a crown of beauty la'amusei vatan, to the Jews that are called carried in Hashem's stomach, so to speak. We're born by God. Shehem atidin lihitchadesh kemotah, because we also will renew ourselves like the moon. Ultimately, we're destined to have a renewal. And to beautify our Creator for the honor of His kingship and everything He created. Thank you, Hashem, for renewing the new months. You must make this blessing of Kiddush Levana standing. Because when you make a blessing on the new moon in its right time, it's like greeting the Shekhinah. If you didn't make a blessing the first night of the new month, you make a blessing till 16 days in the month, till its lacking fills up. Till you have a full moon, then you have to stop. The Rambam here writes the first night. Today, according to Kabbalah, the Bet Yosef writes, we only make Kiddush Levana starting 7 days from the Molad. 7 days after conjunction, after the sun and the moon meet, that's when we first make the blessing on the moon. Now let's talk about the blessing of the sun. Just quickly, take a look at this. I wonder if I can play the video here. Yeah, you see the video? Okay, there's a little clip over here. According to the Torah, it's a bit fuzzy. According to the Torah, the earth is in the center, and the sun, moon, and stars all circle it. Now, this is looking at earth. North is on top, south is on bottom. That's why the sun and the moon are going sideways. We're kind of in the middle of earth, so we observe sunrise and sunset happening over us. But the point is they're going around and around. Now, during the year, the sun and the moon also move on a different path. That's this path over here called the ecliptic. They move slowly up and down the constellations against the backdrop of the stars. So at the same time that every day they're going around the entire earth, they're also going the other way slowly but surely. The sun is moving about, because we're going to talk about this much more at length in the next book, the sun goes about 1 degree per day on this ecliptic. So it takes 365.4 days, 365 and 6 hours, for the sun to make a complete revolution around this circle. So maybe I can show you over here. Yeah, here is the sun at point 0. Okay, it's right at the beginning. Then let's say a couple of months later, now it's higher up. Now it's in the north. A couple of months later, now it's down in the south. What's it going to take for the sun to get back here. Ooh, there's my circle again. Back to point 1, 365 and a quarter days. Which means the following. Take a look at this calendar.
So that's 365 and a quarter degrees. If it's
Huh?
1 degree a day.
It's a little less than a degree. It's a little less than a degree. So every day a little less than a degree. So in 365 days, it goes 360 degrees. So now, by creation, the sun was at point 0 on Tuesday night at 6 p.m., the beginning of Wednesday. If you go 365 days and a quarter, that's another 6 hours. So 364 is exactly divisible by 7. So it comes back to the same time in the week. But then you're at 12 a.m. on Wednesday night. Right? It's because it's 1 day, 1 day and 6 hours more than a week. Huh?
We did studies and the earth is moving around the sun.
Not according to the Torah. In science, the earth does other things, but in Torah, the earth is stable, everything is turning around it. So if the first year was Tuesday 6 p.m., the next year, the sun is going to get to point 0 at 12 a.m. Wednesday night, going into Thursday. And the next year, 6 a.m. on Friday. The next year, 12 p.m. on Shabbat. The next year, again, back to 6 p.m., but this time it's a Sunday. And you keep following the chart, the next time it gets back to Tuesday 6 p.m. is 28 years later. If you follow the math, trust my calendar over here, after 28 years, it comes back to Tuesday 6 p.m. So every 28 years, the sun returns to the original position where it was at the time of creation. That's an occasion for a blessing. It says the Rambam Halacha Yudchet, Haro'eh Tachama, a person who sees the sun, Biyom Tkufat Nisan, on the day of the vernal equinox. That means the day that the sun enters 0 degrees. Again, back to point 0. Shel Tchilat HaMachzor Shel Shmoneh ve'esrim Shana. At the beginning of a cycle of 28 years, Sha'at Kufa B'tchilat Leil Revi'i, when that point again takes place at the beginning of Wednesday, Tuesday night. Kishero'eh ota b'yom Revi'i baboker. When you see it the next morning on Wednesday, Mivarech Baruch Oseh Bereshit. You make a blessing, thank you Hashem, for making the creation. Now this is what we do today, every 28 years. The last time that was done was on Erev Pesach in 2009.
Every 38?
28. Coming again in 2037.
Your Hebrew. You have an English date and a Hebrew date for your birthday.
Yes.
That happens every 30
Every 19 years. Every 19 years it crosses. That's a different cycle. That cycle is also discussed by the Rambam later. This is 28-year cycle.
How did he know that? Where did he take it from?
He did his own mathematical calculations.
He did?
Yeah, he followed it. I mean, it's also in the Talmud. No, it's also
That's amazing.
it's also in the books. And the Rambam writes also he took from the Greek sources as well. Yeah. So every 28 years it comes back. Last time was 2009. Next time 2037. You only get about 3 or 4 of these in a lifetime, if you're lucky. So you make a blessing for the sun returning. Now, this is what we do today also, Birkat HaChama. The Rambam now adds that we do the same for other stars. When the moon will come back to also point 1, the beginning of this constellation of Aries, the beginning of a month, and it won't be turning inclined towards the north or the south. We'll talk about this all at length in Hilchot Kiddush HaChodesh in the next book. Or when any of the other 5 planets, like these, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, these 5 planets, if they come back, litchilat mazal taleh, to the beginning of the constellation of Aries, with no inclination north or south, mazal taleh itself, whenever the constellation of Aries, the stars are themselves rising on the east, this all deserves a blessing. Now the thing is with the moon and the other stars, because their inclination is so varied and detailed, it really doesn't happen often. Once in a couple of 100 years. So it's not a practical blessing, and therefore today we don't make it. But on the sun, every 28 years we do. And so that's why we have Birkat HaChama every 28 years.
When's the next one?
Huh?
When's the next one?
2037. Tafshin Tzadik Zayin.
You're talking about Chama. What about the moon?
The moon, I don't even know.
2037. That's not that far off. Huh?
37. Yeah, we have another 14 years. We're halfway through. We're halfway through this year. Halacha Yutet. If you see a settlement of idol worshippers, houses of idol worship, as they are settled, Omer, you say, a wish. Bet geim yisach Hashem. The house of the haughty, Hashem will uproot. B'churbanan, if you see them destroyed, Omer, you say, Kel nekamot Hashem, Kel nekamot Ofia. God is a God of retribution. God of retribution appear. Ra'ah kivrei akum, if you see a non-Jewish cemetery, Omer, you say, Boshayim chen me'od. Again, that your mother will be greatly embarrassed, and in the future, Hashem will make the Jewish people great. Halacha chaf hanichnas lamerchatz. Somebody comes into the bathhouse. In those days, no, she'ovdim avodah zarah. No, she'ovdim avodah zarah b'mezid. They're actually serving idols, not just Gentiles. You go into a bathhouse. A bathhouse could have been a dangerous thing in those days. Today, it's drastically reduced danger, so we don't make these blessings. But it used to be that when you came into the bathhouse, Omer, you would say, Yih ratzon milfanecha Hashem Elokai. May it be Hashem's will. Shetachniseni l'shalom, v'totzieni l'shalom. Bring me in peace, take me out in peace. V'tatzileni mizeh u'mekayotze bazeh la'atid lavo. And save me from this and from things like this in the future. Uk'sheyitzeh min ha'merchatz. When you leave the bathhouse, Omer, you say, Modani l'fanecha Hashem Elokai. I thank you, Hashem, shetatani min ha'ur, v'cholei, that you saved me from the fire. Halacha chaf aleph hanichnas lahakiz dam. You go in to let blood. Once in a while, it was considered healthy to take a bunch of blood from your body. Omer, you say, that this business should be for me, for healing. Because you heal us for free. And when you leave the bloodletting, Omer, you say, Baruch atah Hashem rofei cholim, thank you Hashem for healing the sick. Halacha chav bet haolech lamod gorno. You go to measure your crop, your granary, your pile of grain. Omer, before you start to measure, you say, may it be Hashem's will, you should send the blessing in the work of my hands. Once you began to measure, Omer, you say, Baruch hasholeach bracha b'kli. You can't say in the future, Hashem should send. You're measuring now. So you say, thank you Hashem for the one who sends a blessing in this pile. Madad v'achar kach bikesh rachamim. If you would have measured and then asked for mercy, that's a prayer for nothing. What do you mean? You already know how many pounds you have, and you say, Hashem, please give me a blessing. If you're screaming about something in the past, it's a prayer for nothing. The Mishnah says, for example, if your wife is already pregnant and you say, please, it should be a ben zachar, the baby is already decided. Exactly. When you go into the study hall, Omer, you should say, I should not stumble in halacha. I should not say, al tahor tamei, al tamei tahor. Things that are pure, impure, impure, pure. V'lo mutar asur, v'lo asur mutar. I shouldn't say if it's permitted, it's forbidden, forbidden, it's permitted. Again, he repeats, I shouldn't stumble in halacha. V'yismechu vi chaverai. My friends should rejoice with me. The ali kashlu chaverai, and my friends also shouldn't stumble. V'esmach bahem, and I should be happy with them. When you leave the study hall, Omer, you say, thank you Hashem, you made my portion from those who sit in the study hall. You didn't make my portion from those who sit in the corners of the street in the market. We both get up early. I get up for Torah study, they get up for nothing stuff. I work hard, they work hard. I work for Torah study and I get reward. And they toil, they don't get reward. I'm running, they're running. I run to the life of the world to come, and they're running to the pit of destruction. If you're going into a big city, there could be some danger there. Omer, you say, bring me into the city in peace. If you got there in peace, Omer, you say a thanks. Thank you for bringing me in peace. When you want to go out, again, there's some danger. Omer, you say, take me out of the city in peace. If you made out in peace, Omer, you say, you took me out of the city in peace. The same way you took me out in peace, let me go in peace. Direct my steps in peace. Get me close to my destination in peace. And save me from the hands of enemies in ambush on the road, as we do say today in the traveler's prayer. Yeah, when we travel, we also say these similar words. The general rule is, a person should always cry and ask for mercy for what's coming. And say thanks for what already happened. Praise Hashem, thank Hashem according to your capacity. Whoever increases in thanking Hashem and praises Him constantly, he himself is praiseworthy.